You're not supposed to be here. You were just a kid holding a textbook, not a tourniquet. But somehow, you ended up on the wrong side of history, crouched in mud that doesn't forgive, surrounded by boys who used to smile and now only bleed. This isn't a war film. There's no orchestral swell, no heroic slow motion, just the sharp scent of iron, the sound of someone dying too loudly, and the weight of a medical kit that feels like a coffin with straps. Tonight, you're not the soldier. You're not the hero. You're the one who has to keep the broken breathing, and when the screams fade and the boots stop running, it's your hands left holding what's left of someone's story. So lay back, let the world slow down, and try to forget that all of this was real. Because tonight, you're the medic. Now, you're not a soldier, you're a countdown. The mud is everywhere, in your boots, in your teeth, under your nails, in your thoughts. It's a living thing now, part of you. It clings like guilt. And just like guilt, it never goes away. You are crouched in a trench barely 4 feet deep, built not for comfort but for containment. Around you, men wait like coiled springs, rusted from youth and soaked in silence. It's not silence though, not really. It's breathing. It's boots squelching. It's the occasional cough, ragged and wet. It's a prayer mumbled in a language you don't speak. It's the ticking of a pocket watch you've checked 30 times in the last 2 minutes. Any second now, the whistle, the moment where the idea of death stops being poetic and becomes kinetic. Right now, you're not fighting for freedom. You're waiting to find out if you're meat or miracle. The trench reeks. The walls sweat. The sky above is grey. The kind of grey that doesn't just cover the sky, but eats it. There's no wind. Just wait. You're 19, or 24, or 36. Doesn't matter. You are old now, because war ages you in dog years. You carry a letter from home in your breast pocket, next to a half-crushed cigarette and a piece of hard candy you've been saving since yesterday. The letter is from your mother, or your wife, or your sister. It starts with, "I hope this reaches you," and ends with, "Come home safe." It won't. Your rifle weighs 12 pounds. But right now, it might as well be a tombstone strapped to your chest. Your uniform is stiff with dried mud and filth, and your helmet has a dent from a bullet that missed. You joke about that dent. You say it gives you character. You don't mention how you cried after it happened. You have a bayonet. It's not for stabbing. It's for panic. It's for the moment when you run out of bullets, or time, or both. You've never used it. You hope you never do, but you sharpen it anyway. Rituals matter. Your boots are 2 sizes too big. They were meant for a man who never showed up. Or maybe he did, but not all of him. You wear 2 pairs of socks to make up the difference. The inside pair has holes. The outside pair is more hole than sock. You stopped caring 3 weeks ago. There's a canteen. The water inside tastes like metal and mold, but it's all you have. It's warm. It always is. There's no such thing as cold anymore, and less wet. And there's your gas mask, hanging at your hip like a cruel joke. Check the straps for the 5th time this morning. You heard what happened to Carter. The gas didn't kill him right away. It just took his eyes and lungs and left him crying like a child until he choked on the green dot to your left. Private Dawson is chewing gum. Where he got gum, no one knows. He chews it like it holds the world together. He's 19 and thinks he'll live forever. He's wrong, to your right. Corporal Hughes is reading a Bible with a bullet hole through the spine. He calls it blessed. You wonder if the hole is from before or after he found it. You don't ask. Farther down the line, someone's singing, low, like a lullaby for ghosts. You recognize the melody, but not the words. They echo across the trench, bouncing off the walls like forgotten dreams. And then there's Thompson, always writing letters he never sends, to a girl he never kissed. He's carved her name into the wood of his rifle stock. It's the only clean part of the weapon. There's Jenkins too. He hasn't spoken in 2 days, just stares ahead. Sometimes he twitches. You're not sure if he's praying or gone. Your hands are shaking. Not from cold, not entirely. You tell yourself it's adrenaline, that it's a good thing, that it means you're ready, that it means your body hasn't given up yet, but your stomach disagrees. It's churning, rolling, revolting. You try to breathe slow, in through the nose, out through the mouth, like the pamphlet said. The pamphlet written by someone who never stood in this trench. The officer at the front clears his throat. Everyone straightens. The world narrows to this moment. The whistle, it hasn't come yet, but it will. And when it does, you'll go over the top, you'll run, you'll scream, or maybe you won't. Maybe you'll trip, maybe you'll freeze. Maybe you'll never leave the trench because someone else gets hit first and falls back on top of you. You've seen it happen, you've smelled it. The copper sting of blood mixed with cordite and urine. You know what it sounds like when lungs collapse and bones snap. You know what it looks like when a man realizes his leg is no longer part of him, and still, you wait. 5 minutes to go, maybe less. The officer checks his watch, a polished silver thing that looks comically out of place, like a chandelier in a slaughterhouse. You think about time differently now. Seconds stretch, hours collapse, days disappear. A week ago, you swore it was Tuesday for 4 days straight. Back home, people complain when the train is 5 minutes late. Here, 5 minutes can cost you half your unit. The mud shifts. The man beside you adjusts his helmet. You feel the vibration. In your elbow, everything is connected. Everyone is wound tight. A rat scurries across your boot. You don't flinch. Not anymore. Rats are normal. Bombs are normal. Death is normal. What isn't normal is peace. You take the letter out. You don't read it. You just hold it, like it's armor, like it'll stop a bullet. Like paper means permanence. You wrote a reply weeks ago. Never sent it. You couldn't, not after Johnson got hit while running the mail. They found him folded in half, clutching envelopes in both hands, ink blurred with blood. You wonder what happened to his letters, whether anyone wrote back. You think about writing another, just in case. But you don't, because there's nothing left to say. You remember home, not the full thing, just flashes. The way sunlight hits the kitchen floor. The sound of a kettle boiling. Your sister's laugh. Your father humming while fixing the fence. Your mother's perfume, lavender and lemons. You hold on to those memories like they're rations, small bites of life. You don't have much left. You remember the train that brought you here, how clean the seats were, how you joked with the other boys, how you said, "We'll be home by Christmas." It's spring now. You remember Sundays, warm bread, radios, clean socks. God, you haven't seen a Sunday in months. Not really. Not the kind that smells like home. It doesn't scream, it shrieks. Shrill and high and final. You don't think you moved up the ladder, out of the trench boots. Slipping, mud grabbing, air splitting. Bullets sing, shells roar. The sky cracks open. You run because you were told to. because everyone else is. Because to stay is to die slowly, and to go is to maybe die fast. You scream because it's the only sound that feels honest. You see the wire, you see the field, you see the bodies. You don't see the bullet, but you feel it, then nothing. Back home, the world keeps spinning. People run late to meetings. They curse traffic. They post complaints online about cold coffee and spotty WI-fee. They don't know what you traded for that quiet morning. They don't know that somewhere, in another time, another mud-soaked ditch, you waited for a whistle with a letter on your chest and a name no one remembers carved into a rifle stock. And if they did, they might look at that slow train or cold latte differently. They might pause, breathe, say thank you because you stood up, because you ran, because you didn't get the chance to come back and tell them what it cost. This is how memory survives. Not in monuments. In the moments people forget to complain. You survived the night. Now comes the hard part. You're still alive. The rats didn't chew through your boots. The lice didn't carry off your sanity. And the shell that sounded like a banshee at 2:47 a.m. That one landed somewhere else, not here. Not this time. It's morning in the trenches. At least that's what your corporal says. The sky doesn't change much. Just a slight shift from cold black to the color of cold milk left too long on the counter. There's no sunrise, just a slightly less hostile darkness, like death decided to give you a coffee break. You try to sit up. Your back complains. Your neck is stiff. Your legs, they gave up on you last Thursday. Welcome to the daily miracle. Waking up, somehow, in a place where even time doesn't want to stay too long. It smells like mud and mold. And men, too many of them, not enough of anything else. There's something metallic underneath it. All blood, or rust, or both. Someone farts. No one comments. The smell barely registers over the reek of trench foot, spoiled meat, and fear sweat. It rained last night. You know this because your socks are soaked and the walls of the trench look like chocolate mousse made by a sadist. You have one set of clothes, and they are now colder than your hope. Your hands are pruny and cracked. The skin between your toes is turning white. You once read about trench foot in a book. Now you live with it. You wish you could forget what the sergeant said last week. If your toes go black, let me know. We'll get the shears. You pretend not to check your feet every morning, but you do. The air bites, not with teeth, but with judgment. It whispers through your tattered sleeves and settles deep in your bones. And yet, it's familiar. Familiar. Like an old injury you stopped trying to heal. Nature calls. It always does. And here, nature is loud, messy, and has a wicked sense of humor. You grab the shovel. The toilet is just a shallow pit filled with last week's regrets. If you're lucky, the wood plank isn't broken. If you're not, well, you become a cautionary tale. There's no toilet paper. You use whatever you find. A scrap of newspaper, a leaf, your pride. Someone once used a sock. He never got it back. You do your business fast. Real fast. Not just because it smells like something hell rejected, but because snipers love this hour. Yes, people get shot with their pants down here. It's practically tradition. You think of your own bathroom back home, with tiles, with light, with privacy, with a mirror where you used to complain about your hair. Now, you'd trade your soul for warm water and a flush, and air freshener. God, you miss air freshener. Back home, toilets have doors. Out here, The only door is the horizon, and it's locked. You return and find the morning rations have arrived. If you're lucky, a chunk of bully beef and something pretending to be bread. Hardtack, basically a weapon-grade biscuit that could chip a tooth. There's tea, if someone had the courage to boil water. It tastes like sadness steeped in a rusted tin. You chew, not because you're hungry, but because routine is all that's left between you and madness. You remember toast with butter. You remember complaining once that it was slightly burnt. You hate that version of you. You envy your future self, the one you imagine sitting at a cafe table, sipping coffee, real coffee, the kind that smells like peace. That version only exists if you make it out of here. You hope he's waiting. You hope he's real. Sometimes you eat in silence. Other times, someone tells a joke so bleak it almost counts as hope. You wipe your face with a sleeve. That counts as a bath. Your breath smells like spoiled rations. Your teeth. Let's not talk about your teeth. You haven't changed socks for days. Your boots are soaked. Your thighs chafe. Your armpits itch. There's something growing under your left knee, but you've decided it's best not to name it. You want a shower. You'd kill for one, or at least severely maim. You used to grumble when your shower ran cold. Now you'd kneel and weep beneath a lukewarm trickle. You'd bottle that water and label it holy. You remember the scent of soap, the way it made you feel human. Here, the only scent is mildew and regret. One scurries past your foot. He's fatter than you. Bolder too, he stops, looks at you, dares you to chase him, then disappears into the dugout like he owns the place. He probably does. Rats run this war. You remember your mother screaming at mice in the pantry. You laugh, quietly, then stop, because laughter echoes weird in the trenches. Makes people nervous. Rats don't flinch anymore. Some of them eat the dead. You pretend you didn't hear that one night. You name the bold ones. You cheer when they disappear. You cheer louder when they don't come back. Jenkins is already awake. He's staring at nothing. Hasn't blinked in a while. Campbell mutters in his sleep, probably reliving something he won't talk about. None of you do. Talking breaks things. Lieutenant Davies is writing again. Letters, maybe, orders, or just pretending to be useful. You envy him. His coat's still clean. Must be nice being too important to dig latrines. Smith's missing a glove again. Thompson's coughing blood again. You pretend you didn't notice. Either you don't ask questions, because every answer carries weight you can't afford to lift. And there's Davis, the kid who joined last month, still thinks the mud will wash off. Poor bastard. You step wrong and sink up to your shin. You curse. Not just because it's cold, not just because it's disgusting, but because it's the 5th time this week. You pull your foot out. Boot stays behind. You fall, hands in the sludge. Face almost meets someone's lost helmet. Could have been worse. Could have been a skull. You retrieve your boot. Swear again. Stand. Breathe. And just like that, your morning bath is complete. Back home, you'd complain if your socks got damp in the rain. Now, you'd thank the heavens for socks at all. Mud gets in your nails, your ears, your soul. There's no escaping it, only surviving it. A distant thump, then another. You freeze. The others do too. 1 Mississippi. To Mississippi. Still here. Just practice, someone says. You all nod, but you keep your helmet on. Back home, thumps meant something different. A neighbor dropping groceries. A kid kicking a ball. Here, it's death, knocking somewhere else. A plane drones overhead. Your eyes follow it like a trapped animal watching a shadow pass. Even birds have stopped flying over this place. And when the guns go silent, that's when you're most afraid. That's the worst part, not the noise, not the cold, not even the rats. It's the waiting. Waiting for the whistle, waiting for death, waiting for the letter that says your brother didn't make it, or your girl back home found someone with clean hands and a future, waiting for the day they finally say, go over the top. You stare at the ladder. Not today, probably maybe. You close your eyes. You whisper to yourself, just make it to lunch. Then just make it to dusk. Then just make it to tomorrow. You've stopped counting the days. Because out here, time doesn't pass, it rots. Back home, a man complains because his coffee isn't hot enough. A woman sighs because her package arrived a day late. Somewhere, someone slams a laptop because the Wi-Fi dropped. And here you are, alive in the dirt, sharing your breath with rats, hoping the mud doesn't eat your last sock. If you ever make it home, you'll stare too long at running water, cry over a clean towel, laugh at the idea of sleeping through the night. People think comfort is a given. You know better, and so, as you wait in this cold, wet, haunted ditch carved into a broken world, you repeat one truth over and over. This life won't be wasted. Not again. You're alive, but someone else's name is in your mouth. It's been 2 days since the last whistle. You lived. You don't remember how. Not exactly. There was mud. There was screaming. There was a hand that wasn't yours gripping your collar. And then there was a hole, not in your body, in the world. A crater, a kind of inverted cathedral, dug out by a shell that left nothing. Wholly behind now, you're somewhere else. Not quite the trench, not quite the field. You think it's a dugout, but the walls move, breathe, pulse. Maybe it's your skull echoing. Maybe you're dead and this is what hell looks like, sandbags and candle stubs. But you're alive. You can tell because everything hurts. Your leg is bandaged badly. Someone used part of a uniform shirt. There's blood in it, not yours, probably. You shift, and your stomach flips like a card trick gone wrong. There's bile in your mouth and gunpowder in your lungs. And next to you, a miracle. A letter, folded, tidy, unsmeared by blood or rain or panic. You don't read it, not yet. You let it sit like a fragile thing, like something that might fly away if you breathe too hard. You recognize the handwriting. It's from her. It always is. You remember the first one she sent. How you didn't open it for 3 days because you were scared she'd written something final, something full of goodbyes disguised as care. This one is probably like the others, full of words meant to hold you upright, meant to fill the holes in you with the sound of home. But this time, you're different. This time, you've seen a boy's head turned to pulp by a mortar. You've seen a hand twitching with no arm attached. You've seen what it looks like when a man forgets his name because a bullet introduced itself first. And still, this letter, like a prayer you forgot how to say. You remember when mail meant something. Back home, messages fly, phones buzz, notifications pop. You can delete your life in an instant and pretend it was never there. Here, a letter is a miracle, a tether, a tiny, fragile thread to a world that doesn't explode daily. You remember your brother texting you memes during math class. You remember laughing so hard in the library they kicked you out. Now, laughter feels dangerous. It might rupture the fabric of this barely holding together place. You wonder if people still send postcards. You wonder if they still put hearts in the margins. The last thing you sent home was a list of injuries, disguised as updates. It's cold, but manageable. We lost a few more to illness. I'm eating enough. Don't worry. Lies, all of it, but comforting ones. And isn't that what love is? A set of lies you both agree to believe, so the world doesn't swallow you whole. You open it, your hands shake, but not from fear this time. From reverence. The paper smells faintly. Of her, lavender and something baked. She writes, I saw a bird in the garden today that reminded me of you. It was loud, obnoxious, and refused to leave until I bribed it with crumbs. You laugh, out loud, a sin in this place. But no one scolds you. She continues, I hung up your coat, the one you hate. I keep it out so the house doesn't forget your shape. You fold the paper slowly, like closing the lid on something sacred. You don't read the rest. Not yet. You need it to last. You've learned how to ration food, water, hope. You know now that love must be portioned to Dot next to you. Dawson is gone. Not dead, transferred you think. Maybe promoted. Maybe just reassigned. Maybe vaporized. The war has a way of unpersoning people. His gum wrapper is still wedged in the wooden beam above your bunk. Thompson's letters are still unread. They buried him with one folded into his hand. Not from the girl, from his brother. You wonder if ghosts can read. Corporal Hughes doesn't pray anymore. He plays solitaire with dog-eared cards and talks to no one. Sometimes you catch him staring at the mud like it's speaking in Morse code. And you write her name into the mud with the butt of your rifle. Just the initials. The rest feels too delicate. There's a boy now, new, maybe 17. He sleeps with his eyes half open and calls out for his dog in his dreams. His name is Garrett. You think, maybe Grant. He asked you if the stories were true, about the gas, about the bayonets, about the men who drown in foxholes when the rain won't stop. You told him no. Then you told him yes, because truth here isn't binary, it's bloodied. It changes depending on the hour, the weather, the phase of the moon. The boy asked you what you miss most. You said, the sound of the fridge door opening. He didn't understand. You didn't explain. It happens once a month. No shells, no whistles, no new holes in the ground or your friends. It's like the war forgot to wake up. On those days, you walk a little, just past the safe zone, past where Jenkins says the ghosts hum louder. You sit, you write. You scratch out half the words before they hit paper. You watch the sky and imagine it's looking back. On those days, time returns to its natural state. You feel the weight of it. The hours that stretch, the minutes that offer room. You think of what she's doing, whether she's cooking, sleeping, thinking of you. Whether she's met someone who smells like soap and reads poetry without being ironic. And you tell yourself, if you make it back, you'll kiss her with the hunger of 10,000 starving gods. You'll relearn her voice by heart. You'll memorize the sound of her coffee stirring. You'll never complain about her long stories again. You'll live in the silence between her sighs. You imagine stepping off the train. You imagine her running. You imagine a scarf, or tears, or laughter that cracks. The air like gunfire, but doesn't kill anyone. You imagine her saying, I waited. And you imagine your answer, something stoic, something cinematic. What you'll really say is, do I still smell like war? And maybe she'll nod. And maybe she'll say, but only a little. And maybe that's enough. Somewhere, someone is mad about a cancelled flight. Someone is upset their oat milk was swapped for soy. Someone is ghosting someone else because they didn't like their playlist. Somewhere, people are worried about blue checkmarks, about steps on fitness apps, about what filter to use. And here, you just want your leg to stop aching long enough to sleep. Here, you barter cigarettes for thread, soup for silence, time for a whisper of a future. You wonder what would happen if they all woke up in your boots. Just for a day, you wonder if they'd scream. You hope they would, because that would mean they still felt something. You wonder what they'd do if they found your letter, folded tight, pressed to your heart. Would they read it? Would they understand? Or would they toss it aside, looking for a signal? You write her one more letter, but this time it's different. It doesn't start with, "I'm fine." It starts with, "Today, I remembered the way your hands smell after peeling oranges, and it made me cry." You fold it, address it, then you tuck it into your boot. You don't send it. Not yet. Maybe never. Because some truths are too sacred to share while the world still burns. You don't know if you'll live to send it. But you know someone might find it, and maybe they'll carry your words a little further. Maybe they'll whisper your name to someone who still remembers how to love in full color. Maybe your truth becomes a lantern in the dark. Somewhere out there, someone thinks of you as a memory that matters. And maybe that's enough to survive one more day. There are nights in the trenches that don't feel like nights at all. The moon doesn't shine, it just hovers. The stars blink like they're trying to remember why they came. And the silence, it isn't peace, it's pressure. Like the world is holding its breath before it screams. Tonight is one of those nights. You're awake, not because you're on watch, but because your dreams are worse than the rats. In them, you keep seeing a door you can't open. You know she's behind it, laughing maybe, or crying. But the door won't budge, not even when you scream. You don't scream anymore, not even in dreams. You find yourself digging again, not for orders, not for strategy, just ... digging. You need something to do with your hands, something that doesn't involve a trigger or a rosary. It's a shallow hole, pointless, like most things here, but you dig anyway. Your fingers go numb. The earth is hard, uncooperative. You whisper to it, like it's a stubborn lover. Come on, give me something, a coin, a bone, a button, anything to remind me this world was once more than war. It gives you a worm, pale, writhing, alive. You envy it. You remember the sound of her laugh during thunderstorms, how she used to dance in the kitchen barefoot, daring fate to wet the floor, how she'd hum while doing nothing at all, as if life were a song only she could hear, and you were lucky enough to be nearby. You remember her telling you once, "Promise me, if you go to war, you'll write the truth, not just what I want to hear." You didn't keep that promise. You told her lies, beautiful ones, that the food was good, that you made friends, that you'd be home soon. She wrote back, "Liar, I love you anyway." You used to think love was a soft thing, silk sheets and slow mornings. Now you know it's a letter written in pencil, smudged from the sweat of someone trying to survive another hour. Hughes is dying. He doesn't say it, but his skin is grey, and his teeth chatter even when he's silent. You sit with him. He asks you to describe the color green dot. You try. Like the smell of her dress in the spring, like the space between a kiss and a smile, like the feeling right before you tell someone. The truth. He says, that's not green. You say, it is now. When he stops breathing, you close his eyes. He looks less dead that way. You write his mother a letter. You make up a story about courage. You don't mention that he was afraid, that he whispered her name Margaret like it was both a confession and a benediction. You don't tell her that he cried. You keep that part. It feels like something sacred. You find his deck of cards and shuffle them once, just to hear the sound. You bury them with him. Nobody else should play solitaire with his ghosts. At home, people complain about sleep schedules, about forgetting to charge their earbuds, about slow Wi-Fi. You haven't had a full night's sleep in weeks. The only wireless connection here is prayer, and it keeps dropping. You wonder if they know how much noise silence can make. Not the quiet of a library or meditation, but a deep, hollow quiet that howls like a wolf on its last legs. Here, silence is a scream in disguise. Every night, you clean your rifle with the precision of a priest. You talk to it, you name it, not out of affection, but because you've forgotten what else to care for. You tell yourself, if you take care of the gun, maybe it won't betray you, but it always does. They all do. Every weapon is a Judas with a bayonet. Afterward, you read one page from the letter. Just one. You've read the thing 20 times now, but rationing makes it feel new. Tonight's line, I still sleep on your side of the bed, not because I miss you, but because the other side gets cold. You don't know what that means, but it breaks you. You fold the paper, kiss it, apologize to no one. You try to remember what her voice sounded like when she was angry. All you get is the echo of her silence the day you left. There's a new noise tonight. Not gunfire, not shouting, singing from the other side. You don't understand the words, but you understand the ache. It's a lullaby, a cruel one. A melody meant for children being sung by men who forgot what innocence feels like. You lean your head against the trench wall, and you hum along, because sometimes even the enemy remembers how to be human. You picture the man singing it, young, thin, holding on to his mother's lullaby the way you hold on to her letters. You imagine him closing his eyes and thinking of somewhere soft, and you forgive him. Just for tonight, there's a dog, now mangy, half blind, walks like it's dodging ghosts. You name him Captain. He doesn't respond, but he sleeps near you, and that's enough. You give him scraps. He gives you silence. It's the best trade you've made in months. When he licks your hand, you feel something almost like forgiveness. He growls at the sky sometimes, like he remembers what thunder means, like he's warning it to stay away. You envy that kind of bravery. What if you'd said no? What if you'd faked a limp? What if you'd run? Would she have loved you less? Would your father have looked at you like a stranger? Would you be ashamed? Or would you be alive, with all your parts in the right places and all your dreams intact? You shake the thoughts away, not because they're wrong, but because they're pointless. The past is a door with no handle. You lean on it anyway, and when it doesn't open, you sit down and talk to it. Because sometimes, even silence deserves company. You fall asleep against your will. In the dream, she's making tea. There's music playing, something jazzy and soft. She's older. Laugh lines, silver strands, still beautiful. You're in the doorway. She doesn't turn around. She says, I waited. You try to speak, but no sound comes. She says, I forgave you. You wake up biting your tongue. There's blood. You taste iron and memory. You wish you hadn't woken up, Back home, someone's watching a war movie while scrolling through social media. They pause the bloodshed to tweet a complaint about popcorn. They say things like, "I could never survive that." You want to scream, you don't know what surviving means. They say things like, "Thank you for your service." You want to say, "Don't. Thank me. I don't know who I am anymore." They sleep in clean sheets. They flinch at fireworks. They argue online about politics they'll never bleed for. You wonder if that's what peace looks like, a numb kind of freedom. You wonder if healing is just remembering without breaking. You write one more letter, the kind you won't send. This one's not for her, it's for you. You made it through another night. That's enough. You're allowed to hurt. You're allowed to hope. You're allowed to want something better than this. You fold it and place it under your shirt. Tomorrow, you might die, but tonight, you lived long enough to tell yourself the truth. You hold on to that, like a match in a storm. You're not brave, but you're still here and in this place. That's its own kind of courage. Maybe survival isn't just about bullets missed. Maybe it's about the stories you keep alive, the love you don't forget, the letters you never send. The sun is a liar. Every morning it shows up, indifferent, casting gold on mud and corpses, like it's doing something noble, but nothing's different. The blood is still there. The stench, the rats, the half-buried hands, all still there. You almost admire the audacity, the way the sun acts like it's not rising over hell. You stopped expecting anything from mornings long ago. You're called to a meeting, not with officers, with the men, the ones still breathing, the ones too stubborn or too stupid to die. Sergeant Rowan is there. He smells like mildew and rage, always does. He spreads a map on a crate like it matters. Command says we move at first light. Over the top, nobody says anything, because what is there to say? One of the new boys, Clark, asks, "What's the objective?" Rowan looks up, eyes like wet gravel, not dying. You think it's the first honest thing he's ever said. You spend the rest of the day preparing, not emotionally. That ship sank months ago. You clean your boots, though you know they'll be soaked in blood and worse before noon. You write a letter, though you're not sure who will read it. You check your rifle for the 5th time. It still hates you. Watch Captain the dog dig a hole. You wonder if he's digging his own grave, or yours. You sit, you wait. You rehearse dying in your head until it feels like a bedtime story. You eat stew that tastes like boiled rope, and then you thank someone for it because manners die last. You remember her again. Of course you do. She's not even trying to stay away anymore. She's hanging laundry, laughing. The sky is blue in that memory, violently, impossibly blue. You're holding a basket. You hate laundry, but you'd wash 1,000 socks just to hear that laugh. Again, she sees you staring and says, "Don't go getting poetic on me. You're not that deep." You reply, "I'm deeper than you think." She smiles. God, that smile. You're about to say something real. Then the shell hits. Not in the memory. In real life, it lands 50 yards down the line. Enough to make the ground buck beneath you. Enough to end the memory, just like that. Nobody sleeps. Not really. Some men pray, others curse. One sings, quietly. A tune about home. About nothing. About everything. You try to write another letter. The pencil breaks. You take it as a sign. Rowan smokes his last cigarette. You ask if he wants to share. He looks at you like you asked for his mother's heart. Die with your own lungs, he says. Fair. The moon is full. It doesn't care. You count the stars, like they're teeth in the sky. You stop at 17. Clark throws up in a tin can. Apologizes. To it, you nod. We've all apologized to worse. It starts with a whistle. Of course it does. The whistle is sharp, shrill, and absurdly cheerful. Like it thinks it's summoning children to recess, not men to their deaths. You climb, you run, you fall, mud in your mouth, blood on your boots, screams, shouts, the unmistakable pop of young men dying too quickly to even say goodbye. You keep moving, not because of courage, because stopping is worse. A man beside you explodes, not figuratively. He's there 1 second, and then he's a red mist. You taste him. You don't have time to feel anything. There's too much everything. You keep running. You fall again. This time, you stay down. You crawl. You pray to a god you don't believe in. Bullets hiss, shells roar. Your legs feel like borrowed bones, and then silence. Not real silence, but the kind where you stop hearing yourself scream. You wake up in a shell hole, alone. You don't remember falling in. You don't remember the last 10 minutes. You taste copper. Your ears ring. Your hands shake. There's a body beside you. What's left of one. You try not to look, but you do. He's young, or was. No helmet, no name. You check his pockets, not for loot, for clues, a photo, a girl, pretty, smiling like the world isn't on fire. You whisper, she's not going to understand. And you cry, because she deserves to, and he deserved to come home. You don't bury him, you can't, but you cover his face. It's the most dignity you can offer. You keep the photo, not to keep, to remember. What matters, you stay in the crater. For hours, you hear movement. Could be friend, could be foe. You don't care. You watch a crow pick at someone's eye socket. It looks at you like you're next. You nod, fair. You hear someone whispering scripture. You don't recognize the voice, but you join in. The wind carries the sound away, like it's trying to take your hope with it. At dusk, they find you, medics, or ghosts, you're not sure. They drag you out, you scream, not because of pain, because you didn't want to come back. But they don't listen. They pull you past limbs, past bodies, past captain, now just a bloody bundle of fur. You don't cry for the men, but for the dog. You howl. The medic pats your shoulder. He was brave. He says, you nod. He was braver than most. They patch you up. Physically, the nurse is kind. Too kind. She brushes your hair back like she knows you once had a mother. You ask her name, it doesn't matter. She says, you'll forget it. She's right. They feed you broth. It tastes like salt and surrender. You ask for the letter. It's still in your coat. You read it. The paper is torn, the ink smudged. Tonight's line, sometimes I pretend your pillow is still warm. You don't know how to live with that, so you fold it again. Place it under your bandages. Let it hurt. They send you back. Of course they do. You limp into the trench like a man entering his own grave. The boys cheer, not because you're alive, because death missed. They treat it like a good omen. You take your old spot. You find a rat sleeping in your helmet. You let it have it. You don't need protection anymore. Not from this. Rowan nods at you. Heard you went sightseeing. You nod back. Saw the sights. Hated the view. He chuckles. That rare, gravelly sound. You treasure it more than you should. You write a new one to her. I wish I could tell you what this feels like, but there aren't words for it, just silences that ache. I'm not who I was. I don't know who I'll be, but I remember you. And for now, that's enough. You seal it. You don't send it. Some things are meant to be buried. Back home, someone's complaining their coffee order was wrong. Someone's buying a second phone case. For variety, someone's posting #blessed beneath a sunset they didn't even notice. You wonder if they know, if they remember, that freedom is paid in pieces of men, that every safe morning is borrowed from 1,000 broken nights, that every playlist and breakfast selfie and political rant is made possible because someone, like you, once bled into foreign mud. You wonder if peace is a privilege or a forgetting. You wonder which is worse. You sit by the fire. It's small, weak, but it's enough to remind you warmth exists. You tell yourself you're not the same, but that doesn't mean you're nothing. You've seen horror. You've done what others couldn't. You've carried death and still managed to hum a lullaby. That counts for something. You don't believe it. Not yet, but you say it anyway. Because the only thing louder than trauma is silence. And you're tired of being quiet, so you whisper your name, just to remember you still have one. And then you sing, off key, off rhythm, but real. The boys join in, and for a moment, just one, the war feels a little further away. You close your eyes and let yourself be human, just for tonight. They'll tell stories one day of courage, of sacrifice, of honor, but they'll never tell you about the holes we carried home, the parts of ourselves we buried in foreign soil, the nights we survived without ever really sleeping. But you'll know you were there. You still are. You thought the worst part would be the noise. It wasn't. It was the waiting between explosions that nearly killed you. The day begins without ceremony. No trumpet, no drum. Just a damp cough and the smell of something that should not be burning. You open your eyes to the muted grey of another trench morning. It always feels like the world forgot to turn on the color. The mud has no end. The sky is an afterthought. There's a dampness that gets into your bones, clings to your thoughts. Everything is wet: your socks, your skin, your spirit. You're not sure if it's Monday or Friday, if it's October or April. The war erased the calendar long ago. Time moves here like blood slow, thick, and in the wrong direction. The whistle hasn't blown yet, but it's coming. It always is. You can hear the distant guns again. Boom, pause. Boom, like the heartbeat of a dying god. Your ears don't even flinch anymore. What startles you now is silence, because silence means something is changing, and change is always bad. Private Ellis sits across from you, or what's left of him. He used to be taller. Then a shell kissed his legs goodbye. Now he sits on a makeshift stool made of sandbags and memory. You ever think we're already dead? He asks, not looking up. You nod, because here ghosts talk, and you listen. There's something about the way dirt clings to your fingernails, the way the air smells like iron and mold. You've stopped recognizing your own voice. Even your dreams are colorless. You get breakfast. Sort of. It's bread. If you can call something that hard and grey bread, you break it on your knee. Not because it's easier, but because it's tradition. You chew. It tastes like sawdust and sarcasm. Your jaw protests every bite, as if it too is tired of this existence. They pour you something that might be tea. It smells like war and tastes like metal. You drink it anyway, because hope died last winter, and comfort never enlisted. You get mail. It's a miracle every time. Like a whisper from the real world. A world that still has mothers, lovers, and people who believe in spring. Your envelope is damp, smudged. The name barely legible, but it's hers. You know the curve of every letter. I heard the neighbor's boy came home. He can't speak anymore. Just stares at the window. I try not to imagine you like that. You fold it. Place it in the pocket over your heart, as if it could protect you. Ellis watches you. She real? Or are you just writing to yourself so you don't forget your name? You don't answer because you're not sure. You write a reply you'll never send. I forgot the sound of your voice, but I remember the way your hands looked in sunlight. Does that count for anything? You pause, then add, I am not myself anymore, but I remember being him. I hope that's enough. You tuck it into a tin box with 32 others. Tiny graves with no headstones. Lieutenant Kerr walks the trench like a man auditioning for the role of God. He's clean, too clean. His boots shine. You hate his boots. He says things like, good men, strong day. You want to ask what makes a day strong, but your sarcasm ran off with your soul 3 offensives ago. Kerr stops, looks at your boots, laces untied. You nod. So are my nerves. He doesn't laugh. Of course not. He hasn't earned that right. The sun peers out, briefly, like it's checking to see if you're all still alive. Then it hides again, coward. A small game of cards begins. No stakes, just muscle memory and a distraction. A man from Glasgow tries to whistle a tune. It dies halfway. Someone jokes, maybe next war, they'll let us email our surrender. No one laughs. At night, the jokes come, because if you don't laugh, you'll start screaming, and screams bring attention. Someone does impressions of the general. They get the mustache perfect. Someone else plays the harmonica with one lung and half a melody. You clap, you smile. You remember being human, just briefly. A sketch is performed. It mocks the enemy, the officers, the rats, especially the rats. The audience laughs. One man cries into his sleeve. You think he's laughing too, until he doesn't stop. It starts at 2 a.m. Sharp, sudden, vicious shells fall like punctuation marks on the end of sanity. You huddle, you pray, you don't know who to. Doesn't matter. The trench shakes, men scream, dirt rains, a rat runs across your hand. You let it. It's as scared as you. Ellis sings something under his breath. It's a long way, ... to Tipperary. His voice cracks, so does your heart. Somewhere to your left, the ground opens. A man vanishes. You don't even learn his name. Just, did you see? Where Thompson went? Yeah, down, and then silence. When it stops, it doesn't feel like peace. It feels like someone forgot to reload. You check the damage. Not to the trench, to the people. Corporal Finch is missing half his face. He's still standing. Someone helps him sit. Nobody cries. Not yet. Ellis is gone. Just gone. You find his harmonica. Still warm, you pocketed, because memory is all that's left when names vanish. They don't ring bells for ghosts. Another morning, another lie. You wash your face with water that smells like rust and regret. You check your rifle. Still there, still angry. You eat another bread brick. This one has mold. You smile, at least it's evolving. You think of home, of her. Sometimes I forget the shape of your voice, so I speak to the wind and pretend it answers. You whisper it, like a prayer, not for salvation, for memory. That night, you dream. Not of explosions, but of grass. It's soft, warm, you're barefoot. You hear birds, she's there. She says, you smell like smoke. You say, I missed you. She says, you came back wrong. You wake up screaming into a pillow of mud. Far away, a man presses snooze. On his alarm clock, again, he complains about traffic. A woman sends back soup because it's too salty. A teenager tweets about bad WI-V. They are real, and so far removed, you don't blame them. But part of you wishes they knew that the price of peace is paid in invisible ink, written on bones, on silence, on screams that never made it home, on names etched into walls no one visits anymore. You sit on the fire step. The stars are out. So many, too many. You wonder how many men have looked up from this same spot, wondered the same thing. Will I matter? Will I be more than a name on a stone? You think of Ellis, of Finch, of all the voices that filled these trenches and now haunt them. You promise to remember, even if the world forgets, and then you hum. Not a song, not really, just a sound. A thread back to humanity. Someone joins in, then another, and for a moment, beneath the indifferent sky, in the middle of a war no one will truly understand. You sing, because surviving isn't just about breath, it's about holding on to the pieces of yourself they haven't taken yet, and singing them into the silence. Because when they come for you tomorrow, and they will, it won't be your rifle that saves you. It'll be this, a memory, a melody, a moment you refused to give up. You won't win this war, but you just won this night. Some nights stretch so long they forget to end. Some never do. You don't remember when the sun last set, or maybe it did, and you missed it. Nights in the trench blend into the day like bruises over skin. There's no evening anymore, only shadows, waiting, hunger without a mouth, time without a clock. Tonight is darker than most. There's no moon, no stars. Even the rats tread softly, as if afraid they'll wake something worse than death. You're on watch, of course you are. Everyone else is either asleep, pretending to be, or dead. You can't tell anymore. The difference is academic. You cradle your rifle like a child you never had, one eye over the top of the parapet, just in case the night decides it wants blood. It usually does, and it's always hungry. Something brushes your ear, a whisper you spin, bayonet half raised. But it's nothing, just the wind, or a breath you forgot to let out. Still, your heart pounds like boots in a stampede. You press your back to the trench wall, as if it might absorb your fear and turn it into warmth. It doesn't. The whisper remains. Not outside, inside. Words you don't remember. A name, maybe yours, maybe hers. You don't check, not tonight. The trench comes alive at night, not with people, with movement, flickers, glints, shadows crawling where no light should reach. You blink hard, but they're still there. Phantoms doing drills, memories marching, regrets in formation. You see Jenkins, the real one, or the mud that once wore his smile. He nods at you. You nod back. No one else sees them. Of course they don't. You stopped mentioning it weeks ago, maybe months. Time has stopped reporting for duty. Your watch cracked. The calendar washed away. Someone tucked a note into your coat pocket. You find it after 3 hours of motionless silence. It reads, "Don't forget your name. It matters even when no one says it." No signature. No handwriting you recognize. You press the paper to your lips. It smells of soap and something like lavender. Memory or hope, same difference. You keep it, folded neatly, like a flag. The alarm doesn't sound. That's what makes it worse. You smell it first, like mustard and rotting leaves. A thick yellow ghost crawling over the lip of the trench. Gas. The word tears from your throat like it doesn't belong. Men scramble. Masks go on backwards. Some don't go on at all. You shove yours over your face. Too late. Your eyes burn. Throat closes. You suck air through rubber and prayer. Beside you, someone is screaming. Maybe it's you. Everything turns green, then black dot. When you wake, your mask is gone, but you're still breathing. A miracle or a mistake. You don't ask which. He arrives during the gas chaos, carried in by stretcher bearers who look more like undertakers. Both legs gone. Below the knee, wrapped in cloth already dark. He's not screaming. That's what makes it awful. He just stares. You look back, you nod. He nods, to ghosts, recognizing each other. Later, he asks for a pencil. You give him yours. He draws something. In the mud, a horse, or a dog, or his mother. No one asks. It would feel like sacrilege. Later, the rain washes it away. You don't stop it, because maybe some art is made just to disappear at midnight. When the sky forgets it exists, you hear her clear, unmistakable. Her voice calling your name, not a scream. A call like she's asking you to come home for dinner. You follow it, of course you do. Over sandbags, through the dark, past the man who used to be whole. You reach the edge of the trench. There's nothing there, just no man's land. Silent, waiting. You almost climb out. Almost, someone grabs your collar, drags you back down. Wrong side, he mutters. You nod. You're not sure who saved whom. It starts as drizzle. Then drizzle gets bored and becomes punishment. The trench floods. Again, you stand in water up to your shins. Socks like sodden bandages. Boots like buckets. You laugh, because if you don't, you drown from the inside. The corporal yells something, probably important, but all you hear is the rain saying, "Stay down, stay still, stay forgotten." You obey. Mostly your boots grow heavy with secrets. You think about dry towels, then decide that's dangerous. Hope is a liability here. Someone starts a new game. Say your name, first one to forget, loses. You all take turns, one by one. Names offered like sacrifices. Most are real, some are lies. You can tell. You say yours. It comes out wrong, bent, crooked. Someone else says it correctly. You look at him, he smiles. It's enough. You decide that games in hell are the only ones worth playing. Because if you win, you still remember. And if you lose, you forget you ever. Did you dream of sidewalks? Not just any sidewalks. Concrete, dry, with cracks that don't try to kill you. You dream of light, a lamppost, the hum of electricity. You wake up sobbing, not from fear, from missing something small, something stupid, a hot shower, clean socks, your toothbrush. You try to describe it to the man next to you. He nods. Mine was a lemon pie. My mother made it. And for a second, the trench smells of citrus. Then it's gone. It returns. The voice, the name, not hers, yours, this time. It comes from within. You say it, firmly, like a promise. Then again, the man beside you repeats it. That's right, he says. Don't forget, not tonight. He dies the next morning, but his voice stays. You carry it with you like a compass made of memory. You write, tonight I remembered my birthday. It rained, I hated the cake. But you laughed when I made a wish and blew out the candles. I wished for a bicycle. I got a book instead, but I read it cover to cover twice. I don't know what day it is, but I know I had joy. Once, you fold the paper, slide it into your coat. Someday, someone will read it and remember that you were more than mud and silence. You were a name, you were loved, you were you, even when the night forgot your face, even when the sky turned away, even when the world stopped whispering. You said your name, and it echoed, and that was enough to begin again. Some things you don't survive, you just walk away slower. The war isn't over, but your body thinks it is. You wake up twitching, not from cold, from memory, except memory isn't the right word. Memory implies something in the past. This is still happening. Someone slams a tin cup down 2 trenches over, and your spine launches you into the mud like you've been struck by lightning. You breathe hard, fists clenched, eyes wild. Easy, someone says. Probably, or maybe that's your brain trying to parent itself. Your hands won't stop shaking. You don't remember your dreams. Just the sound of dirt falling and a scream that might have been your own. You saw the medic once. Months ago, you said, my hands won't stop. My thoughts either. I don't sleep. I flinch when the sky breathes. He gave you a look, not of pity, of inconvenience. Shell shock, he said. Take a walk. Clear your head. You almost laughed. Where? Through the landmine garden. Past the men missing faces. He moved on. You stayed broken. There's a man who hasn't spoken in 3 weeks. Not a word. Just sits there, rocking. Sometimes he hums a lullaby, but only the same 3 notes, over and over. They call him Silas now, even though that's not his name. His name doesn't matter anymore. Names are privileges. He gave his up. One night, you watch him scratch something into the trench wall. I was here, I felt it all. You don't stop him, you just nod, because maybe that's all any of us want. Proof that the pain was real, that we were too. He arrives. Bright tide, boots shined, uniform still creased like it believes in structure. Hi, he says, extending a hand. You stare at it, then at him, then back at the mud. He talks a lot about home, a girl, an exam he was supposed to take. You listen. It's almost beautiful, like a ghost describing life before death. You envy him. He sleeps the first night, like the dead, but warmer. You don't. He dies the second day. Wrong place, wrong time, which is everywhere. You bury his name with him. The rest will forget. You won't. He laughed too much. At everything, even the awful parts. Especially the awful parts. One time, someone tripped and dropped their rations into the latrine. He howled like it was the best joke he'd ever seen. You wanted to punch him, but you didn't, because the laughter wasn't real. Not really. You saw him one night, alone, crying into his hands, like they were the only ones who'd listen. He's quiet now, still here, but quieter. You miss the laugh, even though you hated it, because silence is worse. You catch a glimpse of yourself in a puddle at first. You don't recognize the reflection. Hollow eyes, mud-caked cheekbones, a shadow trying to pass for a man. You touch your face to see if it's real. That is. Unfortunately, You wonder what your mother would say if she saw you now. Then you wonder if she's still alive. You stop wondering. Wondering leads to hope, and that's dangerous. Someone finds a letter in a coat pocket, not theirs, not yours. Doesn't matter. They read it aloud anyway, voice shaking. Dear Thomas, your sister made a pie and we thought of you. We left your chair empty, like you asked. We hope you're staying dry. Dry. You all laugh. Not because it's funny, because it hurts. The coat gets passed around. No one claims it. No one wants to too much weight in the stitching. One night, you see them. Lights, dozens. They float, golden and soft, like fireflies, like tiny promises. You reach out, they explode. Shells. Artillery, incoming. You dive. Mud in your mouth, ears ringing. One man loses his arm. Another loses his breath. You lose your belief in metaphors. The sky is not poetic. It's a predator. Someone has a book, or what's left of one. The cover's gone. Half the pages missing. But they read it anyway. Every night, like scripture. The same passage. Over and over. There is peace in the stillness. You don't believe them, but you ask them to read it again. They do, voice soft, hands shaking. You fall asleep that night. Not well, not long, but it counts. Some nights, you swear you see the dead. Walking, not zombies, not monsters, just men. Old friends, boys from training. That kid who died on his first hour. They patrolled the trenches like they never left. You nod at them, they nod back. You don't talk about it, because if they're ghosts, so are you. You try to imagine explaining this to someone 100 years from now.
We
lived in mud. We died in silence. We counted days by body parts. They'd blink, glance at their coffee, post about it, then scroll on. So brave, they'd write, then forget. But you're not brave, you're surviving. Because no one gave you a choice. You don't want a statue. You want to go home. You want to sleep without flinching. You want socks that don't scream when wrung out. You want peace, and not the kind carved in stone. It starts small, a rustle, a squeak. Then one bites someone's toe. The war within the war begins. Traps are set. Cheese is offered. One man crafts a miniature guillotine. You keep count, like it matters. Rat, 14. Men, 8. You stop counting after one chews through a man's ear while he sleeps. You joke that the rats will inherit the earth. Then you realize they already have. He was all bark, orders and spit, until one night you find him writing in a tiny book, small, red leather, gold trim. You expect strategy, numbers, codes, but it's poetry, gentle, beautiful, soft lines about clouds and his daughter's freckles. He sees you, freezes. You say nothing, he nods. Next morning, he shouts at you for tying your boots wrong. You shout back, balance restored. Maybe it never was. You've forgotten what clear looks like. The sky here is always grey. Even the sun feels sarcastic. You dream in sepia now. Someone mentions the ocean. You stare like they spoke in Morse code. Water that moves, that sparkles. You almost cry, but don't. That's not your luxury. It's always right before the attack. The whistle hasn't blown yet, but you know it's coming. The world holds its breath. So do you. Your legs twitch, your palms sweat. Your lungs decide now is a good time to collapse. You grip your rifle, a man beside you. Pukes another praise. Another hums. Then dash silence. The minute passes. Nothing happens. You want to scream. Because this is worse than the explosion. Waiting, always the waiting. You whisper it into your sleeve. 3 times. Like a spell. You remind yourself of the street you grew up on. Your dog's name. The scar on your knee from the bicycle crash. You were someone before this. Not just mud in boots. Not just a serial number. You say your name again, and something inside you says it back. It's bent, faded. A woman and a boy. She's laughing. He's missing a tooth. It's not yours. You don't care. You keep it in your shirt pocket. It gives you warmth or illusion. Same thing now. You've started making up stories about them. She bakes pies. He climbs trees. They're waiting. Somewhere. You tell the photograph you'll be back. You know it's a lie. But lies can be gentle. And that matters at the end of this night. You sit in silence. Not because you're tired. Because you're full of grief. Of names. Of laughter that tasted like blood. You write a note. I was here. I watched the stars disappear. But I did not forget who I was, even when the sky tried to erase me. You fold it, tuck it inside your coat, right next to the photograph. One day, someone might find it. Maybe they'll understand. Maybe they won't. But you wrote it, and that's enough. You're still here, not because of fate or skill or faith, just probability. You're the 1 in 10 who didn't catch a bullet, yet the others, their names carved into wooden crosses, or just initials scribbled in the margin of someone else's prayer. You don't say their names anymore. Superstition, like they might hear you and remember. They forgot to take you with them. The dawn doesn't rise in the trenches. It seeps pale, damp, less a beginning and more a suggestion that the darkness got bored and left. You rub your eyes with knuckles crusted in dried blood and mud. You hope it's yours. Your hands shake, always. Sometimes it's hunger, sometimes memory, most times both. The medic told you it was shell shock, like it was a cold or a splinter, told you to rest, as if the war would pause politely for your nervous breakdown. There's a boy in the trench beside you, was rather he didn't scream when the shrapnel hit, just looked surprised, like someone had interrupted him mid-thought. You held his hand until it stopped twitching. Now you wear his gloves. They don't fit, you write every night. Scraps of letters you'll never send, notes to people who wouldn't understand, postcards from hell. Dear Mum, today I saw a man bleed out through his ears. The ground drank it. Love me. You fold them into your boot, just in case. Maybe someone will find them. Maybe someone will care. Maybe you just need the ritual. Your officer reads poetry. Not out loud, not for morale, in secret, by matchlight. You caught him once, mouthing the words like a prayer. You said nothing. He nodded like you'd agreed on something. The trench has a smell, not one smell, a symphony. Blood, sweat, mildew, shit, gunpowder, rot, memory. You can't smell home anymore. But you remember how it felt to breathe it. You dream of bread, not victory, not medals, bread, fresh, warm, soft. You once saw a man cry over a crust of rye, said it reminded him of his daughter's hands. Didn't make sense. Still doesn't. But you cried, too. The rats are bold now. They don't wait for silence. They don't care about dignity. You swat at them in your sleep, wake with bite marks. You gave one a name, Reginald. You talk to him more than your corporal. The sky cracks. Not thunder, artillery. Closer every time. You count between the flash and the scream. 10 seconds. 8. 5. They're walking it toward you. You dig deeper into the mud. There's nowhere else to go. A friend once told you war makes everything louder. That's a lie. War makes everything quieter. The scream after the explosion, the silence after the scream, the empty spaces where people used to be. You found a letter, not yours. Doesn't matter. You read it anyway. We lit a candle for you. Made your favorite pie. Miss you. You passed it around. Nobody said anything. One man kissed the corner. Another folded it into his coat. Now it's a relic. Your reflection is a puddle. That's all you get. You stare long enough, and you start to recognize someone else. Someone older, someone tired, someone who used to be you. There's a prayer scrawled on the trench wall. You don't know who wrote it. Maybe God, maybe a joker with a sense of timing. Let me live long enough to forget this. You whisper it sometimes, not for salvation, for rhythm, for breath. Your boots are half-soles, and hope. Your rifle misfires when it rains, which is always. Your uniform has more holes than fabric. You wear death like a second skin. You've stopped trying to wash it off. There's a corporal who screams. Orders like the war needs volume. Then one night, you see him shaking in the latrine, whispering the names of dead brothers. You pretend not to notice. Next day, he's louder balance. The whistle comes at dawn. Always, it's not a sound, it's a summons. Like the reaper calling roll. You stand because everyone else stands. You run because your legs remembered the rhythm. You think of her, whoever she was. The girl who wrote your name in a notebook. The one who laughed like she didn't know what the world could do to people. You imagine she's safe. You know she's not. You promised you'd come back. That was before you knew you'd have to leave parts of yourself here, like a toll, like payment. You whisper your name, just to remember it, just in case you forget. I am here still. The war hasn't eaten me yet, but it's chewing. You write it down, fold it, tuck it into your sock. One day, someone might find it. And if they don't, it doesn't matter. You were here, that's enough. And now, contrast. Back home, someone complains about slow Wi-Fi, about spilled coffee, about traffic on a Monday morning. Somewhere, a man throws out a sandwich because he didn't ask for pickles. Somewhere else, a woman forgets the name of the street she grew up on because she never needed to remember. Comfort dulls memory. They'll never know the weight of mud frozen to your skin. The sound a man makes when he realizes he's dying. The taste of metal that isn't from food but fear. They'll never learn what it means to live in the pause between whistles. And maybe that's mercy. But tonight, in silence, as machines purr and lights hum, and the worst thing someone feels is boredom, maybe someone will remember, not names, just a feeling, a whisper that there were people who were chewed up by history, so the rest could sit in quiet rooms without looking over their shoulders. Maybe someone will light a candle, or maybe not. But you were here, and that still matters. Close your eyes now. Let the world be soft again. You earned that much, even if the trenches never truly let you go. You find it by accident, buried in a rusted tin under cracked floorboards in what used to be a barn and is now just a whisper of architecture. The kind of place GPS skips and time forgets. You were looking for old nails. Instead, you find a memory. Tin is dented. The label faded into nothing. Inside, a sock, brittle with time. And folded inside the sock, paper. Yellowed, soft at the edges. Words, scribbled in pencil, half faded, half clinging. You can barely read them. I am here still. The war hasn't eaten me yet, but it's chewing. It stops your breath. You sit down. Dust blooms around your knees. You read it again, like repetition might change the ending. There are other pages, notes, letters never sent. A dried flower, a button, one glove, left hand, torn at the wrist. You don't know his name, but you feel like you know everything else. And just like that, someone who was almost erased becomes real again. You take the papers home, scan them, post them. The internet lights up. Comments pour in. My great-grandfather fought in that sector. This gave me chills. How did people survive this? The truth is, many didn't. A historian emails you, wants to carbon date the ink. A museum calls, offers money. A teacher prints the letters out for their students. A teenager reads them on. TikTok voice shaking. For a moment, this nameless man becomes a headline, then a footnote, then a fragment again, but something remains. A whisper at a coffee shop. Someone puts down their phone and stares at nothing. Somewhere, a kid writes their first poem about the war. Somewhere else, a man visits his grandfather's grave for the first time in years. No one mentions why don't you keep the glove. Some nights, you hold it like a relic. You imagine the hand it once held, cold, calloused, young. You wonder what he looked like. You wonder if he believed someone would ever find his words. You want to tell him they did. You want to tell him it mattered. And maybe, if ghosts listen, he already knows. Because the world keeps spinning, soft and blind. But every now and then, someone pauses, hears something, and in that silence, in that hush between memory and forgetting, he's there still. You're not sure when the war ended. Not for the world. They had dates and treaties, and grainy headlines about victory and rebuilding. No, you mean for you. The part of you that dug through mud to find the rest of your sanity. The part of you that swore you'd never forget the smell of rotting boots and fresh prayers. That part simply slowed, faded, buried itself somewhere beneath the years. And yet, tonight, it wakes again. You're not in a trench anymore. Not really. There are no bullets, no screams. Just the hum of an old refrigerator and the soft tick of a wall clock that reminds you time still bothers to move. But when you close your eyes, really close them, you're there again. You're 19 or 30 or ageless, and your hands are covered in something that used to be a man. You're not holding a rifle anymore. You're holding the inside of someone who used to laugh. Time bends in strange places, and now, somehow, it folds. The trench mud gives way to a new ground. Soaked canvas, shredded gauze, screams, too raw to have language. The whistle still blows, but now it's calling for you, and you're not sure who made you a medic, but here you are. No one trained you. The only thing you're armed with now is mercy, and your hands are shaking again. Welcome back, welcome to the next war. Welcome to the chapter no one prepared you for. You're the medic now. The whistle blows, not for glory, not even for war. This one blows for you, for the next life you're supposed to salvage, with hands that barely remember how to hold steady. You weren't trained for this. 1 minute you were just Private Mercer, just another body in the mud. Then the real medic screamed and didn't stop. Now you carry his bag, No ceremony, just a handoff, just a grunt. You're the medic now. You didn't even have time to protest. Now here you are, kneeling in blood that steams in the winter air. Fingers searching through torn cloth and torn flesh, trying to find the part that still wants to live. He's 19, maybe younger. His mouth opens like he wants to say something holy, but all that comes out is blood and a little piece of yesterday's breakfast. You press gauze where there is no longer a stomach. You whisper to him like you know him, "Stay with me, just until the next breath. That's all I need." He does. 2 more breaths, then none. You close his eyes with your thumb like they do in the movies, except they never tell you how hard it is, how warm he still is, how quiet death really gets. You grab your bag, another scream. This time it's real. This one's alive. For now, you move by instinct, not knowledge, not protocol. You wrap tourniquets, too tight. You jam morphine into thighs like you're trying to kill the pain before it realizes it's supposed to spread. You lie a lot. You're going to be okay. He's not. But maybe that sentence gives him another minute. There are rules. You break all of them. You're not supposed to treat the dying. You're supposed to treat the savable. But every face looks savable until it doesn't. Your uniform is soaked. Not rain, not anymore. You can't smell anything but copper and rot. You gag sometimes. You keep going. The captain calls for you. His leg is gone. Just gone. Clean like it was never there. He's smiling. Shock. You kneel. He grabs your collar. "Tell my wife, ... You nod. You won't remember. You can't. If you do, you'll break. You wrap the stump, tie it off, pour whiskey on what's left. It feels medieval. You feel ancient. Night falls. Or maybe it's just smoke. Your hands don't stop shaking. Not from cold. That was hours ago. You stitch a boy's chest while he screams for his mother. You whisper nonsense. "She's coming. She's right behind me." You lie like it's love. A shell hits too close. Dirt rains down. Someone's jaw hits your shoulder. No one else is attached to it. You should cry, but you can't waste the water. You crawl, bandage, cauterize. You lose track of names, of time, of self. By dawn, you're a ghost in boots. No one sees you until they need you, and they always need you. The sun tries to rise, but mostly it just sulks behind smoke and sorrow. The trench is quieter this morning, but not because the war is done. Just because the dead don't scream. You haven't slept. Sleep is for people with futures. You have bandages, blood, and a list of names you'll never write down. It's easier that way. If you name them, they haunt you. If you don't, they still do. But less personally. Your fingers are wrapped in other people's skin. Your nails are black with rot. You tried washing once. The mud laughed. Someone shouts. You stumble toward the voice. A boyno, older than your brother, is curled around. His own leg like it betrayed him. Shrapnel. You don't look for the wound anymore. You look for the red dot. You tear the pants. You can feel his bones moving where they shouldn't. He's biting his lip hard enough to bleed. You pulled the morphine. Easy, just a pinch. Then fire. He nods. Or maybe convulses. You inject. You press. You wrap. You hope. That's the job. Pressing, wrapping. Hoping his name is Louis. He tells you twice. You repeat it like a prayer. Louis, 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 you stubborn bastard. Don't you leave. He doesn't. Not yet. Behind you, Someone is moaning in German. You don't speak it. Pain is universal. You crawl to him. Half his face is gone. You almost vomit, but you swallow it. You press a rag to his mouth. He flinches. You hum something tuneless. You're not alone. He dies 3 minutes later. You cover his face, not out of respect, out of necessity. Eyes make demands. You look around for what you don't know. A sign, a reason, a God with decent aim. Instead, you see Hartley. Hartley used to whistle all the time, even when it made people mad. You once heard him whistling through tears. Said it kept the ghosts from following. Now he's just sitting, eyes open, covered in someone else's everything. Hardly nothing. You kneel, shake him, he blinks. Slowly, he holds out his hands. They're empty, but dripping. He was just talking, he whispers. You nod. That's all you can do. You pull him up. He walks like glass. A chaplain passes, handing out cigarettes like sacraments. You take one. You don't smoke. Not really. But this isn't really life. It's a waiting room with explosions. You light it off a shell casing. It burns your throat. You keep it anyway. A taste of death to feel alive. There's a new boy, from London, maybe, to clean, to pink, he calls. You, Doc. I'm not a doctor. You're close enough, he says, eyes wide. You want to tell him to run, but where? You hand him a roll of gauze. Make yourself useful. He follows you like a shadow. You see familiar boots sticking out from under a tarp. You don't lift. You already know. The boots told you. Someone's arm is hanging from a tree. Just the arm. No explanation. No context. You stare too long. The new boy pukes. You almost envy him. You keep moving. That's the only rule. Don't stop. Don't think. A soldier's gut is open. He's trying to hold it in like spilled groceries. You kneel. You don't flinch. You try to remember anatomy. You get it wrong. You pack it anyway. You're going to be okay. He laughs, then cries, then dies. The new boy stares at you. You shrug. Sometimes the lie's the last thing they hear. He nods, doesn't argue. A shell hits a trench over. You feel it in your teeth. Dirt and fear collapse around you. You drag the boy into a hole. You count seconds. You lose track. He sobs. You hold his shoulder. It's not over. We're not over. You believe it enough to say it. That's something. Rain starts. Of course it does. It always does. The trench becomes soup. You're wet to the bone. And then some. A soldier hands you a locket, says, "For my wife." In case you take it. Your pockets are full of farewells. You find Louis again. He's sleeping, breathing shallow. You check the dressing, still holding. Told you you'd make it. He smiles, weak, real. You sit. Just for a second. Long enough to remember your name. The war doesn't care. It keeps chewing, but you're still the medic. And someone's screaming again. You've lost track of how many times you've crawled over the same patch of mud. It knows you now. Greets your knees like old friends. Swallows. You up just enough to say hello. The boy from London has a name. Oliver. He tells you stories when he's not vomiting. He has a dog back home named Churchill. You almost smile. One night, you find a man clutching his stomach like it's still attached. It's not. You improvise a pressure pack with a shirt, a belt, and what might be a sock. He lives, for now. A week passes. You think it might be less, or more. Time here is elastic. It stretches and snaps, leaves welts in your memory. Oliver saves a man. A real save. You let him do the stitches. He shakes, but he does it. You slap his back. He weeps. You both sleep sitting up. There's nowhere else. The ground is crowded with those who no longer need space. In a lull, you share chocolate someone smuggled from home. It's grey, tastes like dust. Best thing you've had in months. Hartley whistles again. You close your eyes and let it carry you, if only for a minute. A rat chews through your pack. You beat it with a spoon. You write letters you'll never send. Just to remember how. You fix a bayonet wound in the dark. You don't see the face, just the blood. Someone hums a hymn. You hum along, you dream of silence. Real silence. Then morning comes, and it all begins again. You're the medic, still, always, and someone, somewhere, is already bleeding. You've stopped asking when it ends. The war, the pain, the job. There's no end, only next. Each dawn isn't a beginning. It's a continuation of tasks, of screams, of blood that never washes out, only fades into your pores like a bad tattoo. You wake up already working. Dreams don't exist here, only flashbacks. The trench is darker today, but you can still see. That's the problem. You see everything. The rat, the rot, the parts of people that aren't supposed to be separate. Oliver coughs beside you. Blood, just a bit. He waves it off like a gentleman tipping his hat. Just mud in the lungs, Doc. He still calls you Doc, still believes in titles, in structure. You envy him. Hope is a kind of madness too. The worst kind. It makes you care. It makes you stay when you should run. There's a new batch of replacements. Their boots are still brown. Their eyes still curious. Poor bastards. They've never seen a man with his ribs showing like piano keys. They think this is just another dirty job. You line them up, show them how to wrap a bandage, how to bite down on a stick, how not to look at what's under the uniform. You don't fix people. You keep them alive until someone smarter shows up, or until they die. That's your job. One of them vomits. Another cries. A third asks where the bathroom is. You laugh, not because it's funny, but because it's better than screaming. You once screamed, back when you were new. It didn't help. You take them out on a run. Routine, they say. There is nothing routine about war, but you go. You always go. The mud grips your boots like it wants to keep you. Maybe it does. Maybe you'd be better off swallowed whole. A mortar lands to your left. Earth moves. You don't. Not anymore. You blink the dirt from your lashes and keep walking. You check for pulses like a priest with a stopwatch. One's still thumping. You kneel. Hey, stay with me. Where's it hurt? He can't answer. His jaw's gone. You press gauze. You whisper lies. You're fine. You'll be fine. You'll be talking by Tuesday. He bleeds. He shakes. He lives. For now, you tape what you can. Call for the stretcher. They run like they mean it. That's rare. Oliver helps carry him back. You watch the kid grow up an entire year in those steps. It changes you, lifting someone who's no longer whole, like holding hope made of meat. That night, someone plays harmonica. The sound is ugly, beautiful, human. You all pretend it helps. Music doesn't heal, but it distracts. That's enough. You bandage a man who can't stop laughing. Hysteria, maybe. Or he knows something you don't. You wrap his side. soak through 3 linens. He thanks you, offers you gum. You take it. It's dusty, you chew. It tastes like stories you'll never tell. Rain again. Because of course, the sky is addicted. It pours like punishment. The water pools in the trenches. Rats swim, feet rot. Morale dissolves. Someone gets trench foot. You saw the toes off yourself. He doesn't scream until the end. You wash your hands in whiskey, then drink the rest. It's antiseptic. It's mercy. It's what you have. The replacements start naming rats, pets, morbid mascots. You don't stop them. Everyone needs someone, even if it has whiskers and steals your biscuits. At 2 a.m., a man whispers about his sister, says she sings like rivers. You pretend to believe that means something. Maybe it does. Maybe voices carry across miles when the world is ending. You're called to the wire. A patrol didn't come back whole. Don't step where the earth looks new, you say. New dirt means old bombs. You find him in pieces. You gather what's left. You lie to the dog tag. He didn't suffer. You always lie. It's kindness. It's cruelty. You can't tell anymore. Oliver asks how you do it. You shrug. Someone has to. He nods. He's shaking. He's starting to see it now. The truth, the rot behind the courage. You let him hold the morphine, a test. He doesn't flinch. He's learning. Back in the trench, someone's humming again. It isn't pretty, but it's not gunfire. That makes it sacred. It's the difference between survival and silence. You sew up a gut wound with fishing line. It holds, barely. The man says thank you. He thinks he'll go home. You let him think that. You clean your kit in silence. The blades don't shine anymore. They remember too much. You wipe blood that isn't yours. Wonder if yours will be next. You write a letter for a man who can't. You make it sound noble. It isn't. You leave out the begging. The way he held your arm like a child. You dream of kitchens, of warm socks, of unbroken eggs. You haven't seen an egg in a year. It feels like a myth. Like peace, a man dies holding a book. You keep it. You read a page. You don't remember it, but you keep reading. It's not about remembering. It's about pretending to be a person again. You're the medic, still someone screams. Again, and so you go. You don't ask anymore. You don't cry, you just go. You don't remember when the ground stopped being ground and became something else, a grave, a sponge, a confession. You step on it and it sighs beneath your weight. It remembers. Maybe better than you do. Today it smells like rust and something sweet rotting underneath. That means blood and teeth. Someone somewhere is missing some. The sun doesn't rise here. It sneaks, like it's ashamed. Light crawls over the trench like a guilty thought. You squint out of habit, not hope. No one hopes at sunrise anymore. Morning only means more dying. Oliver is limping now. He says it's a sprain. You know it's shrapnel. He won't let you see it. Pride, or maybe fear that once he becomes a patient, he won't stop being one. You don't push it. Not yet. The captain hands you new orders. Not folded, not sealed. Just passed along like bad news in paper form. We're pushing east, he says. 3 clicks to the ridge. 3 clicks. That means 3,000 meters of mud, mines, wire, and wishes. Most of them false. You pack light, gauze, morphine, the last clean scalpel, and a letter you haven't mailed. The replacements whistle as they prep. They think this is a film. A hero's march. You wonder which one will be the first to scream. You cross no man's land under cover of smoke. Not stealth, not strategy, just smog and luck. Boots sink. One man doesn't come back up. You mark the spot with your eyes. Not to help him, just so you don't follow. A mine takes out Andrews. Not all of him, just enough to ruin the rest. You get to him fast. You always do. He looks at you like a dog caught in a trap. Tell my wife it was quick. You lie. You always lie. It was quick. It isn't. You hold his hand through the long part. The sobbing, the choking, the silence. You write her a letter. You leave out the details, the parts that stick to your skin. By noon, you've run out of morphine. So you start rationing, not based on need, based on odds. Who might make it? Who won't? You play God with dirty gloves. There's a boy named Keller. His first day, face like a school portrait. He holds his arm at the wrong angle, like it doesn't belong to him anymore. It doesn't. You amputate under tarp and prayer. He passes out halfway through. You envy him. That night, you sew in the dark. Candlelight makes shadows. Shadows make ghosts. Your needle slips. You think it was a vein. You don't check. Someone coughs blood into your kit. You wipe it off. Later, not now. Now you have to stop another man from bleeding out his thigh. He screams. Of course he screams. You scream too, but only on the inside. You dream of trains, not because you miss home, because you miss movement. The idea of going anywhere else. A man from Glasgow hums as he dies. A hymn. You don't know the words, but you hum along. At dawn, artillery hits close. Closer than usual. Your ears ring. You check yourself out of habit, still whole for now. You dig for a man buried under plank and panic. You find him, half of him. You stitch him up anyway. You're not sure why Oliver finally lets you look. Infection, angry, pus-like regret. You lance it. He doesn't flinch. He just looks at you like you matter. Thanks, Doc. You're not a doctor. You just play one where it matters. Least at some point, someone reads poetry. Something about rivers. You don't listen. You're too busy. Sewing someone's chest closed. The replacements stop whistling. One by one, like lights going out in a storm. Now they just stare. At nothing. At everything. You ask a man his name. He doesn't remember. You write John Doe on his tag. He nods. Like it's fair. You clean your tools with whiskey and rage. You sharpen a scalpel on a stone. You wonder if it's for someone else or for you. A shell lands. Somewhere, you flinch this time, just a bit. Progress, you lose. Keller, the stump went bad. You cut off his leg and his future. You bury both. He was 16. Someone hangs himself in the latrine. You cut him down. You say a prayer you don't believe. It doesn't help, but it fills the air with something other than silence. You write another letter. You burn this one. Not all truths need to travel. One night, it snows. You catch flakes on your tongue. You laugh. Everyone laughs. It feels wrong. It feels right. You use snow to clean your hands. It's cold. It's clean. For 5 seconds you remember winter as something beautiful. Then the guns start again. You stitch a man who won't wake up. You finish anyway. It's ritual now. A way to pretend. Oliver reads you a letter from his sister. She had a baby. Named it after him. You try to smile. You almost make it. You dream of fields, not these. real ones. With flowers, no bodies, no mud. You wake up angry. Dreams are dangerous. The captain loses his leg. You patch him best you can. He begs you to finish it. You don't. You let him live. He hates you for it. You find a diary in a dead man's coat. It's full of sketches, trees, dogs, a face, maybe a lover. You don't know. You keep it at dinner. Someone jokes about eating the rats. No one laughs, not because it's gross, because it's not a joke. The ground shifts again, wet, always wet. You've forgotten what dry feels like. Oliver tells you a story about a lake, about a girl, about a future. You let him speak. It helps you treat a man who says he saw angels. You don't argue. Maybe he did. Maybe they just look like corpses now. You clean the blood from under your nails, again and again. It never all goes. You sharpen the saw, slowly, carefully. It's a meditation now, a promise, a threat. Someone gets mail, a photo, a smile in it. You stare too long. It doesn't help, but it hurts less than usual. The rats get bolder. They don't even run now. You name one bishop, he steals your biscuit. You let him. You help birth a thought in Oliver, that maybe you survive this, that maybe surviving is worse. You nod. You understand. You find yourself humming, not the hymn, something older, a lullaby. You don't know where it came from. Another shell, another scream. You grab the kit, you go. The sky isn't falling, but it wants to. You can feel it in the pressure behind your eyes, in the slow drip from the lip of the trench, in the weight pressing down on everything that still has a name. Rain is falling again, not hard. Hard enough to wash anything clean, just enough to turn everything into the same color. Brown, brown sky, brown walls, brown boots, brown blood. The days have started blurring, not in the poetic way, but in the clinical, irreversible sense, like smearing wet ink. You try to remember the date and come up with Tuesday, and even that feels like a lie. They sent you more men, more boys, fresh faces, stiff uniforms, hands that haven't shaken yet. One asks you where to put his rucksack and you want to scream. But you don't. You point. He smiles. You know that smile has less than a week left in it. Oliver's leg is worse. He won't say it, but you can see how he favors it now. There's a fever behind his eyes. You press your hand to his forehead and he shrugs you off like guilt. He knows, you both know. But there's no time for that because they're coming. There's a push scheduled for dawn. Scheduled like it's a delivery or a wedding, not a human sacrifice with extra steps. The captain calls it essential ground, as if the mud has sentimental value. You're not part of the charge. You never are. Medics are always a step behind, always arriving just in time to fail slightly less than completely. That night, you line your kit up like a soldier. Tourniquets, gauze, a few precious vials of morphine, now more valuable than gold or prayer. You sharpen your scalpel, you clean the bone saw. You try not to think about why sleep doesn't come. Instead, you listen to the breathing, to the wind, to the rats, and somewhere, far off, a harmonica. It plays something almost cheerful, almost at first light. You watch them climb the ladders. You watch the sky turn to ash dot, and then you run. You're in it before your feet leave the trench. A man catches fire in the first 10 seconds. He doesn't scream, which is somehow worse. Another steps on a mine and vanishes mid-step. His legs keep walking without him. You blink. You run. You reach a man curled on his side, cradling his stomach like a child. You turn him, and his insides are on the outside. He looks up at you. Mouth moves. Nothing comes out. You know what he wants. You give him the morphine. The last one, you say nothing. He nods. A boy named Harris is gripping his own neck. Blood pulses between his fingers like a heartbeat. You press down. He gasps. His eyes are screaming. "Mama," he says. "I want my mama." You nod. "She's coming." You lie. He dies before the blood stops. You hold his hand until it goes slack. You let go. You always have to let go. You find Oliver. He's down. Shrapnel, chest. Not deep, but deep enough. You press gauze to the wound. He grits his teeth. You tear his shirt, see the bruise blooming. Across his ribs, like rot. He smiles through the pain. "Told you I was too pretty to die." You laugh. You don't want to, but it's all you can do. The whistle comes again. Another push. More men leap the trench. The ones who come back aren't the same ones who left. You spend the afternoon sewing. Flesh and time. Your fingers are blistered. Your back screams. But you don't stop. A lieutenant calls for you. Someone high-ranking took a shot to the leg. You go. The man's still screaming orders as you cut through his trousers. The bullets. Through and through, easy, by your standards. You wrap it. He demands to be carried. You look at him. You don't answer. You walk away. That night, you dream you're in a cathedral. It's made of bone. Each pew is a stretcher. Every window shows a war. The choir sings through gas masks. You wake up with your hands clenched like you're still suturing something. Maybe you are. You find Bishop the rat you named curled beside your boot. He's missing an eye now. You give him a crumb of biscuit. He takes it, crawls off like he owns the place. Someone laughs in the next trench. You don't ask why. You receive a package. Inside, socks and a tin of sweets. The socks are too clean. The sweets taste like memory. You offer one to Oliver. He declines. Wouldn't want to spoil my appetite. He's lying. He hasn't eaten in days. Another man dies mid-sentence. You never find out what he was about to say. You think it might have been funny. You stitch in the dark again. You don't bother lighting the candle. You know the shapes by now. The replacements are quieter now. They don't whistle. They don't ask questions. They just watch, like you did, like you still do. You clean your tools. Whiskey, rag, routine, ritual. Your hands shake less now. You're not sure if that's good or just another kind of numb. You amputate a man's leg by feel. The blade catches on bone. He screams. You scream. Back, not out loud. Never out loud at roll call. Half the names are met with silence. Someone hums again. Same hymn, different voice. You think about home, not because you miss it, because you can't remember the color of your mother's eyes. And that feels wrong. You write a letter. You sign someone else's name. You hope it helps. A man confesses to you while you sew him up. Says he shot his own officer in the back. Says he'd do it again. You nod. You tie off the stitch. The captain asks if you're okay. You laugh so hard you nearly choke. He doesn't. Ask again. Oliver asks what you'll do after. You say, "Doctor." He says you already are. You both know that's not true. You hold a man's heart in your hand for 12 seconds. It beats once, twice, then nothing. You sew the chest closed anyway. Habit, you clean the blood from under your nails. Again, it doesn't come out. Not really. You start hearing music in the mortar fire. A waltz. You try to hum along. You can't find the tune. You catch yourself praying. You're not sure when you started. You don't stop. You sit with a dying man who's reciting Shakespeare. You don't recognize the play, but the rhythm is soothing. You repeat it to yourself. Later, in the latrine, in the dark, you check on Oliver in the morning. His fever broke. He smiles like someone who just dodged a bullet. You smile back. You both know he hasn't. They say the push worked. You took the ridge. You lost 70 men. You write their names. You burn the list. You sit on the edge of the trench, look out over the mud, the smoke, the wire, and you realize the worst part. You don't feel anything. Not relief, not pride, not even grief. Just empty. And you really know that tomorrow it starts again. You bury Oliver at sunrise, not because he asked. He didn't. Not because the war paused. It didn't. But because you needed to. You dig with your hands. The shovel broke days ago, maybe weeks. Time isn't a line anymore. It's a circle of blood and boots and bandages. But you mark the grave with a helmet, scratched with his name. O-F-E-L-D-A-N. The others don't say much. They stand. They lower their heads. One man hums a hymn with no name. It sounds like a lullaby you forgot. You walk back to the trench with mud on your knees and something heavier in your chest. You scrub your hands with snow. They still smell like iron. You're the only medic left now. You organize your kit like it matters. Gauze, 2 vials of morphine, a dull scalpel, 1 bone saw with a chip in the blade. You hold the saw and think of Oliver, of how he called you Doc even when you were just guessing. There are rumors the war might be ending, but there are always rumors in the mess tent. You sip something called coffee. It's more bark than bean, but it's hot. A man shows you a picture of his girl. You nod, you lie. You say she's beautiful. You say he'll see her soon. He believes you. He needs to. That night the shelling stops, not a pause. An absence. You lie awake, waiting for it to start again. It doesn't. You dream of trains again. But this time, you're not on them. You're waving goodbye. And everyone on board has both legs, both eyes, and smiles. Real ones. The captain calls a meeting. Says command is pulling out. Says you get to go home. Says it like a joke with a bitter punchline. You pack your kit. You leave the saw. You carry only the letters you didn't send. And a picture Keller drew. A tree with birds. You climb from the trench for the last time. You expect to feel something. Relief, rage, closure. But the mud still squelches. The air still smells like cordite and ghosts. You walk past graves you dug, boots you cleaned, bodies you couldn't save. They don't wave goodbye. At the checkpoint, a man checks your name. You made it, Doc, he says. You nod, but you didn't. Not all of you. On the train, someone offers you a cigarette. You take it. You don't smoke, but you hold it. Like proof. You're still here. Outside the window, trees blur by. Real trees, alive. You wonder how long until the quiet starts to hurt more than the noise. Someone laughs too loud. You flinch. Your hand reaches for the kit that isn't there. When the train pulls into the station, a woman hugs her son. A man cries into his coat. You just stand. You walk to the street. The world looks the same, but you don't fit. You try to sleep that night in a real bed. You wake up cold. You check your hands for blood. There isn't any. You still smell it. You write a letter to Keller's mother. This time, you tell the truth. All of it. You cry halfway through. You never mail. Weeks pass. Maybe months. Someone calls you sir in a grocery store. You look behind you. No one's there. You start walking places just to hear footsteps behind you. One day, you volunteer at a clinic. They hand you clean gloves, a clipboard, a name tag. The first patient walks in. Small cut, paper thin. Your hands shake. You breathe. You sew it holds. That night, you sit on your porch. You watch the sun set. It doesn't sneak. It shines, and for the first time in what feels like a century, you close your eyes and don't see blood.